and welcome to the Direct Selling Success Podcast. I'm Anna Green, and I'm here to share with you tips, tricks, and training on network marketing done right. Thank you for listening.
Well, welcome to this week's podcast, and I have a guest with us today. It is Carron Charlesworth from Usborne Books. You're an Usborne Book partner. Is that the official way
Independent
of saying?
Usborne partner.
Oh, nearly there, nearly there. So, Carron, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, sure. I am Carron Charlesworth. I am a mum to twins, 13-year-old twins now, Eliza and Freddie. And we live in Barnsley in South Yorkshire with hubby Mark and our 3 cats. I have been with Usborne for just turned 9 years. So it's been a very, very exciting journey. And I am currently a Divisional Leader with Usborne with a downline of 255 people.
Amazing. So, what made you start with Usborne? What was the thing that made you go, oh, I need to do this?
It was a bit of a weird one for me because I was working in another job. I was full-time in another job. And after a really kind of like hectic, I suppose, 3-4 years with Eliza and Freddie being young twins, I got to a bit of a point where I thought, there's got to be something else here for me. Things had started to calm down a bit at home, and my hubby at that time was working away quite a lot with work, so I was on a bit of a loose end really on an evening once I'd got the kids in bed. So I started thinking, do I want a hobby to do? Do I want some sort of part-time job that I can do from home? And it was just coincidence really that I saw in a twin mum Facebook group one night, somebody put a recruiting post in for Usborne Books. And I thought, oh, I think we've got quite a few of those books at home. Didn't realise that you could sell them. So that's when I started kind of like looking more into it and finding out more about what it was about. And I think the more I looked into it, the more I thought, this is for me. I wasn't really looking for extra money because I'd got my job, but I thought, I think I could actually do something with this. It felt quite exciting, but I did mull it over for 3 months. I was thinking, so I was also doing some volunteer work with twin families as well. The big thing was, could I actually fit it in with my job and everything else?
Yeah.
The second thing was, what do I do? I've never done anything like direct sales. I've never done anything like that before. And then a really big thing that was holding me back was, who would I actually sell to? Because I didn't have a big social circle. And so I was quite worried about how I would actually get sales. But then I think what really appealed to me with Usborne was the fact that we can work with schools and nurseries. So that was quite a big pull for me.
Yeah, and I suppose that meant that you could go out and find that audience of people through contacting the schools and things as well, not having to worry about that whole friends and family thing that well, I was the same. I didn't have that friends and family circle when I started with direct sales. So it was, where do I go? Who do I speak to? And knowing that you've got schools and nurseries and bigger organisations that you can speak to probably was a big draw.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So you came in for a very similar reason to me. It wasn't the money, it was the something else. That need for something else.
Yeah.
So what was that turning point from thinking, oh, actually, do you know what? I'm going to do this for me, to actually seeing the potential of direct sales?
I think I had my launch party in my second week, and one of my friends who came to that party, she asked if she could also sell the books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and team building, it was not on my radar at all at that point. And kind of at first I put her off and said, yeah, you can join up through our head office. And she was like, no, I want to join with you. I want to be part of your team. And I think that was a really nice introduction for me because we learned together. I picked my mentor's brain and we planned a lot of stuff together. We went out and did stalls together, and we had like team meetings at my house and coffee and cake and stuff. And I think as soon as I started seeing that I actually did know a little bit more than Emma, because I'd been there a week before her, I could, support her. And then the more I got into it, I could tell her more stuff about, how to run her bookshop. And then I got another team member about 6 weeks after that, I think. That was one of my twin mum friends who joined my team. And then I got another lady who I worked with. So as things started to like very slowly snowball for me, I realised that the mentoring and supporting side of the business was what I really, really enjoyed. I loved going out and selling the books, but I think linking into my volunteer work as well with supporting families with twins and offering advice and support, I could see that's where I was naturally gravitating towards, and what I really enjoyed. And I know it might sound a bit cheesy, but I do think, like looking back, it was my calling.
Yeah, I don't think that's cheesy at all, because I think that majority of leaders in this industry see that mentoring side and that watching other people grow and watching other people succeed the biggest draw to staying in this business, and the biggest thing to pull you forward and do more of it, because it is so rewarding. I mean, I remember getting recognition on stage for me and thinking, oh, this is great. But the moment I saw one of my team get that recognition on stage, that meant so much more to me.
Yeah.
It's just a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. And I think every person who comes into your team, everyone's different. So, it's like getting a new friend every time. And I do try to be more mentor, and I'm not over friendly with people, because you've got to maintain that level of professionalism and boundaries. But I do find it really exciting that everybody who comes into your team, they've all got their own story, circumstances, and I really enjoy finding ways of sharing the books that will work for them. Fitting with their family and their confidence levels. It's all really exciting.
So I'm presuming that it's not all been plain sailing all the way to divisional leader.
No.
It never is it? And I don't know about you, but you see people in the industry and they're the top of their game, they're doing amazingly well, and they make it look so simple and so straightforward, and you straight to the top, done. It's not like that for the majority of people, is it, Carron?
No.
What was your journey like?
Well, 4 months in, I nearly stopped with Usborne.
Really?
Yeah, I'd had because I joined right at the beginning of our silly season in the September. I didn't really know it was silly season back then.
Yeah.
I had a really busy September, October, November, and then it just went really quiet in the December. And I was a bit like, oh, right, what's happening? Have I exhausted everything? Have I got nobody else to sell any more books to? And I started thinking, actually, is it for me? Can I really do this alongside my other job? And we had a company event coming up in the January. It was called the Gala. And I thought, I'm going to go to this gala and just see what else is out there for me. And it was a bit of a make or break situation. And I went to this gala with not high hopes, if I'm honest. I went on my own. I didn't know anybody. It was a massive step out of my comfort zone. And I really had my eyes opened at that gala. I realised that there was so much that I wasn't even aware of that I could tap into, and I could grow my business in lots of different directions. And I decided at that gala that I wanted to be a team leader later that year. Again, wasn't easy. I thought that I'd just, get loads of team members and promote like the following week or something. But it took me quite a while to promote to team leader. And I know now it's because I didn't really have much of a plan. I was just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
And just some months I'd have the active teamies, but not the volume. And then other months I'd have the volume, but not the active teamies. So yeah, I learned how to plan and overcome the challenges of not planning and not getting to team leader promotion. I think as my business started to grow bigger, another massive challenge for me was time management and how to run a business alongside a full-time job and keep growing the business and keep spinning the plates at home. So I had to get a lot better at time management and, as the saying goes, working smarter, not harder. I think for most people, COVID had a huge impact
Yeah.
I've never really been a big online seller. I was always out doing stalls and working with schools. And I had a really successful stall at a hospital once a month.
Mm.
Obviously, that stopped with COVID, so I had to find a different way to sell the books online. So I started an adults book club online, and that really, really took off. So I think I've become quite good at evolving, and not all sales will stay consistent, and I've become quite good at looking at other avenues and not thinking it's the end of the line, and chatting to other people and finding out how they get their sales. But yeah, there's been lots and lots of challenges along the way. It's made me really quite a resilient person as well, and just accepting that you will fail, things won't go right. I've done stalls and not sold anything. It's just part of what we do, and you just have to keep getting back up and getting back on the horse, don't you, with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're working with people, you you know, they don't have the same goals and aspirations as we do. They don't have the same drive as we do. And like you said right at the beginning there, 4 months in, you were ready to quit. The majority of people at that point would have gone, nah,
Yeah,
sod it. I'm going
yeah,
to quit. And it's
yeah.
only the very few that don't. You know, the turnover in this industry is so quick. 3 to 6 months is the average anybody stays.
Mm.
So if you can reach that point and go, actually, I'm going to do this. It's got tough, and I'm resilient enough to find something else to do in my business that's going to make it work. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try something new. I'm really going to, pull my finger out. And yeah,
Mm.
it just goes to show that the difference between the people who want it and the people that don't, doesn't it?
Yeah, I knew I'm not a quitter, and I think I knew deep down when I got to that 4 month point, and I thought, what am I doing?
Mm.
I think I really, really knew deep down that I wasn't going to let it go, but I knew that I couldn't go on with just kind of doing small stuff, if you like.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to make it bigger. I just didn't know how, and how big it could go and how I could do that. So I mean, like, I'm a massive fan of company events and getting involved with everything that the head office puts on, and going to training sessions, because you can become so insular in, you might just talk to your mentor, or you might not talk to your mentor, and not seeing what's happening in the wider community.
Yeah.
You're kind of doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you learn so much from these bigger events and all these people with the different experiences, and like even in the same company, people are doing things differently in another team, and uh, the way that the conferences are run, they're so inspiring. They can motivate you to try something new or to take that action. And if even just the little events, your team meetings.
Mm.
I remember fighting a losing battle trying to get people to come to these little team meetings. The ones that came were the ones that left inspired and built the businesses. The ones that didn't were the ones that drifted off. It's such a shame. I don't think people get the value of that extra support and the extra training that's out there.
Yeah, it's more than just selling. It's more than recruiting and selling. It's that interaction. Like you say, you can see what other people are doing, and like back at that time when I joined, I only saw what my mentor did, and it was only at that company event where there were people of different ages, their children were different ages, and they were getting up on stage and accepting different awards and doing little speeches, and I was thinking, I'm so like that lady. She's working, she's got young children. If she can do that, why can't I? But I don't, if I'd not have gone to that event, I don't think I would have ever seen what was outside of, my mentor and her team.
Yeah. So you say you worked full time as well as the kids, as well as the Usborne business, and it's not just a little ticking over business by this point. It's something so much bigger. What happened? How did you balance that, and then what's changed since that point?
I think as it started growing bigger, I had to set more boundaries. I had people that were coming in. I was saying to them straight away, I work full time. So I'm not on my phone during the day. If you send me a message, you're welcome to do that, but I'll probably won't get back to you until later at night.
Yep.
So I started creating a Facebook group that had got a lot of the resources in there as well. So people didn't have to come to me and ask me as many questions. It was all in the group. And as the team started growing, then more people started putting their resources into the group, and then it started becoming like a real community, and started getting team leaders, and we were all just putting stuff into this Facebook group. And it was the ethos in that group was just really lovely, and I think that's what really encouraged things to grow even more, really, because it just started becoming normal that you joined and you brought somebody else in with you, and you invited people to share the books. And I do things like, well, I eat every second out of every day when I was working. If I was commuting on public transport, I'd be working on my phone. I'd be, talking to the team then. I'd be watching training sessions. If I was driving, I'd be talking on the phone to schools and nurseries. So
obviously hands-free. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah. But I saw it as every spare moment that I had where I wasn't working or doing mum stuff, it went towards Usborne, and that's how I grew it. It's how my brain worked, and I cut back on all the TV watching and scrolling and anything that didn't bring any value to me, my family, or anything like that. I parked it, and for me, it was the only way that I could grow things with how busy my life was elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's true for everybody who's building a business and wants to be successful. You've got to have that level of focus. Know what's important, what's going to make it go faster, how you want your work-life balance to be, and do it. So when did you leave your full-time job?
I got made redundant, actually. So I started Usborne in September 2015, and I got made redundant in February 2018. And I could have left my old job, but I'd been there for such a long time, and I really, really loved it. I worked for a charity, and I'd been there 16 years, and we got made redundant. They closed the department down. So by that point, my business had grown so big that I didn't even need to consider looking for another job. I just fell back onto it. At that point then, I was a divisional leader. So I'd promoted to team leader, group leader, and divisional leader while still working in my old job. It was quite interesting that first 6 months after that, because I didn't really know what to do with all this time.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that was quite challenging in itself. And I don't think I was very productive in that first 6 months.
Do you know what? When you have the time, you're not. Yeah.
No. So, but yeah, I've slowly found my feet with it, and then things started building even more. The downline started growing huge. I was getting more team leaders in. COVID hit, and it just absolutely exploded.
Yeah, it was like a little bubble, wasn't it then?
Yeah, it was interesting times.
Yeah, and afterwards was interesting as well, wasn't it?
That's been a whole other adjustment as well, after COVID.
Yeah. But I know things haven't gone particularly smoothly for you recently either, have they? You've got other challenges now.
Yes. So I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I was thinking about when I started noticing these other challenges coming about. And I think it was actually when I was in my old job, and I worked in event management and marketing. So it was quite a creative job. You had to be coming up with ideas all the time and thinking of different ways and thinking on your feet. And I started noticing in meetings that I just couldn't think straight some days. And I couldn't, if somebody asked me a question, I just couldn't think of an answer or a creative idea. And I really kind of started retreating in meetings and becoming quite quiet at work. And I realised now that was the perimenopausal brain fog that was starting to kick in, and it wasn't like it all the time, and it was quite hit and miss in the, for quite a few years. But yeah, just in this last, I don't know, 4 years maybe, it's other signs have started, other symptoms have started coming in, and I mean, it's been good that I can work from home really flexibly, because obviously, without going into too much detail, periods start changing and becoming more erratic and a lot heavier. And there has been times in this last few years where I've just not been able to leave the house because I've not been able to trust my body.
Yeah.
To be honest. And I've been so grateful that I've not been working a 9-to-5 job and having to commute and sit in an office and sit in meetings and, be thinking, oh, what's happening? So yeah, it has become quite difficult at times to manage that. And like I said, I am really grateful that, sometimes if I get up in the morning and I just think, I can't even think straight today, I don't have to do any work. I can just take myself away from it all, and I get overwhelmed quite easily these days as well. So I've learned how to manage that a lot better, and I've become even more of a planner and a goal setter than I probably ever have been with stuff. But I think where I'm at the minute with it is because I do get overwhelmed really easily with the brain fog and everything else. I've become a lot better at prioritizing. And when I've done my list for the morning or the afternoon or the day, Usborne goes in its box then, and that's me time then to kind of like recharge for the next time.
Because it's totally changed how you run your business, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, it's whereas before I was out doing lots of stalls, and I was out most weekends doing stalls. When I stopped working, I'd go to toddler groups and do stalls and just be out a lot more. And it did coincide with COVID anyway.
Yeah.
But I had to move my business online for COVID. But even after COVID, I realised that actually I can still work online with my business. And I've always focused on recruiting and mentoring, but I focused on it even more then because a lot of that can be done online as well. So, and I can feel now I've had some things put in place, some medical things put in place where I can go back out now and I don't have to be thinking, what's my body going to do today? So just in this last 6 months, I've started going out doing more stalls. I really miss the social side of it.
Yeah.
As well, doing stalls and just chatting with people. And I think for the last maybe 18 months, I've not realised how much I did miss the social side of going out and doing a stall and not necessarily selling loads of books, but just chatting to people.
Yeah.
And because my kids are older now and they spend a lot of time in the bedrooms at 13 years old, they're not as dependent on me. So I do find I have got more time to choose how I plan my life and plan my days out and plan my Usborne work as well.
Yeah, and I suppose from the very first days that you started running this team and setting those boundaries in place, that's enabled you to keep that sort of thing up whilst you've got, another thing that you've got to work around. And those boundaries have just shifted slightly.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been quite strict with my working hours because I've had to be because I wouldn't fit everything else in. But I think that's kind of like put me in a good place then, because I knew back in my early days I had to be really strict and say to people, this is when I'm available, this is when I'm not available. So now that comes quite naturally to me to, like now, I pretty much work between the school runs and that's it. I might do a couple of evenings, might do a stall on a weekend, but I like the fact that this is my job, and when I've done it, I can move on and do something non-Usborne, and I can kind of forget about it until the next time. I can put it in its box and get it out.
That's really good. So I know for a fact that there won't be many people that can do that are listening. What are your top tips then on that work-life balance, that putting your business away?
I think making sure what you're doing aligns with your goals. So if you want to be a team leader, then I would be giving myself a list of jobs that's going to get me to team leader, and I would be prioritizing those jobs and not overwhelming myself with a massive list. If I've only got an hour to do, I'll be really realistic with what I can actually do in that hour, but making sure that the stuff that I do first is going to get me towards hitting whatever that goal is, and not deviating as well from it, being really strict and saying, if I have calls booked in with people, if somebody says I can't, oh, can we cancel or postpone, I will look, and if I can book in another time when I'm working, I will, but I won't book in a call when I'm not working, because that's my time. Then it's not my Usborne time, and I still always think, you've got to treat it as a business.
Yes.
If you treat it as a hobby, it will always be a hobby, and that's fine. If you want it to be a hobby, that's fine. But if you want it to be a business, you have to treat it with the respect that it deserves, and like you would a 9-to-5 job. You go, you do your work, and that's it.
Yeah.
So just be really strict with your time and like the self-care side of it. If you're not looking after yourself, then that will have a knock-on effect on your business as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this that have been listening in. Carron, tell people where they can find you.
Well, my business is Mrs. Twiglet's Book Barn, so you can find me on Facebook. You can also drop me an email to Carron Charlesworth, and that's spelled Carron, Charlesworth. It's a very weird spelling. Carron Charlesworth at yahoo.co.uk.
I will put both those things underneath and a website link as well.
Thank you.
So you can find them in the show notes. But thanks again, Carron. Lovely to have you on here.
Thank you very much.